everyone, Nux here, and before we dive into our main topic today, I first want to go into an important update because, man, that last video where I talk about how I was on a good upload streak, that is not going to age well because I may be looking at another long hiatus soon. Basically, I'm going to be getting wisdom teeth surgery or something like that. So yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to record videos in my usual way, so it'll be a while until I'll be able to upload with my full voice recovered. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be my voice or my mouth or what, I don't know. I've never done this wisdom teeth stuff before. But just know I will be back soon, and I'm hoping to get some videos done before the wisdom teeth surgery so that way I can keep some uploads ready for you guys while I'm gone. But just know I will be on a bit of a hiatus with this channel when that does happen, so I apologize for that, and I will do my best to manage y'all through it. Again, follow me on Twitter because that's pretty much where I'll be very active and updating you guys almost daily about what's going on with the channel. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this main subject. So a few weeks ago, Pokemon did indeed have a big Pokemon presentation for Pokemon Day, and they basically revealed a number of big announcements, and the biggest announcements there were the long speculated Sinnoh remakes, with a twist of course, but we'll be getting to that in a moment. So if you followed me for a bit, you know that the Sinnoh remakes have probably been some of my most anticipated games ever. The Sinnoh Pokemon games are some of my favorite games of all time. Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum mean so much to me, so getting remakes of them obviously should be a big deal to me. But despite how requested these remakes have been, and despite, how much of a slam dunk they should have been, there is definitely a divisive element to this remake, which I guess isn't surprising when you consider that Pokemon overall has been in a bit of a divisive state for a while now. But I'm not going to get too deep into that rabbit hole right now because trust me, it is a whole mess that I gotta talk about in a separate video. So right now let's focus on the main Sinnoh remakes first. So the name of these Sinnoh remakes are Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which, first of all, let me just say that Brilliant Diamond is a terrible name. Like, I don't know, what does brilliance have to do with diamonds? That name just doesn't make much sense to me. That feels like something they picked out of a hat or something. Shining Pearl isn't as bad, but I definitely feel like they could have chosen some better words to put in front of Diamond and Pearl. And it especially bugs me because if I were to get these remakes like day one or whatever, I would be choosing Diamond person because that's like my first Sinnoh game. So yeah, that's just a nitpick, but I don't know, something about that bugs me. But that's not the big thing that most people are split on when it comes to these games. The big thing that a lot of people are divided on are the looks of these games. When the trailer started up, people knew it was going to be the Sinnoh remakes just because of how much buzz and requesting there's been about these games for a while now. But what disappointed some people was that it wasn't going to look exactly how they expected. Going into Sinnoh remakes, we thought that they would mostly be taking a page from the newer games such as Pokemon Let's Go or even Pokemon Sword and Shield when it came to how the models are scaled and how the game could potentially look. But the problem is that instead they went for this very chibi toy-like direction. Like the models in the overworld are really tiny and look like little toy play figures or something, and that definitely rubbed people the wrong way. And if there's something I have to compare this visual art style presentation debacle to, it has a similar energy to the Zelda art style debating. Like, if you don't know, Zelda has a lot of debating between games when it comes to visuals. Some people really like the look of Wind Waker because they think it's timeless and they like the more cartoony art style of Toon Link's games, but some people prefer the look of games like Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild because they think it's a little more realistic and it fits Zelda better. Like, Zelda changes art styles a lot between games, and there's a lot of debating in that community over it. And now it appears that that problem has somehow managed to make its way to Pokemon, because now we just have models that are extremely tiny and just look unfitting to the series somewhat. Now, when it comes to my personal opinion on the visual look of the Sinnoh remakes, personally, I'm on the side to where I do not like the direction they chose for the presentation of these Sinnoh remakes. Now, you all know me, I'm not a stickler all the time when it comes to stuff like graphic resolution or frame rate, but I am very picky with the art style of my games and how I envision games looking when they're remade. For example, when I talked about the Sonic Adventure remakes in some of the videos where I covered that, I was very specific on comparing it to games such as Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Generations, because I think that remakes of the adventure games should look similar to some of the best looking Sonic games in recent memory, which is sad that it's not Forces and stuff like that, but that's a whole other can of worms I don't want to open. Basically, I don't like it when games go for the toy and clay direction. Like, I like artsy games like Kirby's Epic Yarn and Woolly World are not bad per se, but I just hate it when games take the toy direction for no real reason other than to stand out. A big example of this is the Link's Awakening remake. I thought that the Link's Awakening remake didn't look all that appealing when it took the toy direction. It's not a bad look per se, it just doesn't visually capture me as much as any other direction. I especially think it's bizarre with the Sinnoh remakes because it doesn't really look all that stylized. Like, one thing that makes the chibis look even more unappealing is that the look of everything overall doesn't look all that stylized. There's some areas that look kind of nice, such as the areas with the lake and how the water looks, but otherwise some areas just don't clash well with these models. And what makes it even more bizarre is when you actually go into battles, you can get full 3D models there, and the models there also look kind of weird. So yeah, this whole presentation is definitely rough. Like, I get what they were going for. They wanted to go for something closer to the original sprite art style. But I feel like what could have made it better is if they really leaned more into the sprite side of it, taking inspiration from something like Octopath Traveler instead of doing this weird 2D, 3D hybrid kind of thing. Now, let me explain something very clearly when it comes to the visuals of this game. Just because I have problems with the visual look of the Sinnoh remakes doesn't mean I think, for example, that Sword and Shield was this masterpiece that the game should have looked closer towards, because as we all know, Sword and Shield had its own graphical and visual problems, and I don't think anyone wanted these remakes to look like those games exactly. We just wanted that general look drastically improved. Like, when I envisioned Sinnoh remakes, I envisioned it looking like the original games, but really upscale, seeing taller character models, seeing bigger worlds. And now it kind of just feels like the original games more so remastered in a way. And I don't know, something about that is just a little disappointing. Heck, I wouldn't even have minded if it was like on the Let's Go level of art direction. I know a lot of people are playing the hypocrite card with that because there were a lot of people who didn't like Let's Go who are suddenly suggesting that would have been a better direction. But honestly, I think they're justified in saying that, because I think that doing a direction closer to Sword and Shield or even Let's Go would have been a little better than this weird experimental chibi kind of look. Like, it gives off the energy of the early 3DS era Pokemon games where the models kind of went for that chibi look of the original sprites, but it looked kind of bizarre due to how these were, again, 3D models. So overall, I'm really disappointed in the visuals of this game. Like, I don't think they look absolutely terrible per se, but I don't know, I feel like they could have balanced the 2D and 3D look of the models and stuff better. But I could maybe look past it if some other areas of the game are good. which I won't go too deep into all that because there's all sorts of videos already on the internet talking about what Sinnoh Remix needs, such as a better regional dex, a return of features from the older games, stuff like that. Like basically, I want these remakes to be on Heart Gold and Soul Silver level. I want them to build and improve on all of the original Gen 4 games, and I mean all of them. That includes Pokemon Platinum. And so far, we've seen some things that might indicate they build on things from Platinum, but we don't know. Will they bring back stuff like the Battlefront tier and all sorts of cool features that Platinum introduced? We just don't know because Game Freak has been really lacking when it comes to that kind of stuff. And that's something that hurt Oraz, because Oraz taking such little inspiration from Pokemon Emerald really hurt it as being this definitive Hoenn experience. Now, even though I mentioned Game Freak by name and I talk about how them handling another set of remakes is a little concerning, that technically isn't the case because Game Freak is actually sort of outsourcing with the Sinnoh remakes and another game that we're going to talk about in a minute. Basically, Game Freak has admitted that they need a little help with these games and they're reaching out to some other studios. Now, I can't remember the studios at the moment. I should have put it in my little notes doc here, but yeah. Basically, they have help with these games, and that's something that might help them make the games better, but if it doesn't, man, oh man, these are gonna be quite the disappointing games. So that's pretty much all my thoughts on the Sinnoh remakes right now. As we get more information, maybe my thoughts will change around and stuff like that. I don't know, I'll probably make a follow-up video later, or not, it depends. But now let's go ahead and talk about the actual big surprise of this reveal, which is that the fact that the Sinnoh remakes are not the only new Sinnoh games that we're getting, because we are actually getting this extremely experimental game called Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is so amusing to me. Basically what this is that Arceus is going to be getting his own game with this very strange experimental gameplay that is clearly inspired by The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like, everything about this trailer just screamed that it wanted to be Breath of the Wild. Now, to give this trailer some props, there are some interesting ideas shown here. Like, there's the potential to where Pokemon can actually knock you out, not your Pokemon, you. Though the problem is that the trailer didn't do a good job of showcasing some of these features. So yeah, it's while the idea is definitely interesting, like a lot of people have wanted a big open world Pokemon game, this trailer didn't do a good job of showing the potential of it, because while Legends, I can see Legends definitely having a lot of potential and some interesting ideas that could make its way into the main series, I fear that this execution is going to stumble hard due to how experimental it is. Like, the trailer looked extremely rough. The worlds were very empty. It didn't look like there was much to do besides catch Pokemon. And again, the problem is that this trailer clearly wants to be Breath of the Wild very badly, but if you remember, the first trailer of Breath of the Wild alone had so much more depth to it. It had a lot of interesting story elements to it. It had a lot of interesting gameplay mechanics shown, and this trailer just didn't have that kind of energy at all, so it really makes the game a little concerning to me. Another thing that's, while not as concerning, but is a worry from some other people, is the fact that this game does take place in the past. And you would think that a Pokemon game taking place in the past wouldn't be bad at all, and it would actually be an interesting concept, but I don't know. One thing that could potentially hurt the game in that aspect is the fact that because it takes place in the past, it is going to take place in a time before a lot of important technology in the Pokemon world existed. For example, there probably isn't something like Pokemon centers around the world due to how, again, it's far in the past. And there's all sorts of little technologies. from the modern Pokemon world that probably won't be in this game. So that's gonna be something that I'm interested to see executed with this game. Like, how are they going to fill this game with content without those modern elements from the mainline games? I'm also curious in what direction the story will go in, because again, this is the first game where Arceus has a major prominent starring role. And Arceus as a Pokemon has always been very shaky when it comes to his lore and how he interacts with humans and other Pokemon. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they execute that. I really hope it is a good story, because I've wanted to see Arceus in a starring role for a long time, but I just hope that the execution is really good and he's not just in the background. I'm sure he'll be at the forefront because, I mean, his name is in the title, but yeah, just a lot of uncertainties with this game that I feel like are very concerning. Oh yeah, and just to come full circle, I should also say that this is another game that has a bit of a graphical and visual debacle with it. Like, some people are saying the frame rate with this first trailer looks really bad, and I would kind of have to agree. Like, man, oh man, I hope that Switch Pro is on the way. But other than that, we're just gonna have to wait and see how this game turns out. Like, the game looking so empty in this first trailer, kind of being so it's really concerning. But I just hope nothing for the best for these games, man, because these are games that have my favorite region at the forefront. I've been waiting for Sinnoh to get back in the spotlight for so long, and I just really want these games to be good, but they just have so many shaky and kind of ominous vibes right now, and I don't know how to feel with these games. I'm disappointed with the looks of the main Sinnoh remakes. I like the looks of Pokemon Legends Arceus, but things such as the shaky frame rate and the empty looking worlds also have me concerned. So yeah, overall this was a very mixed and divisive reveal, and all I can really do is wait and hope for the best. I guess the only other thing that happened in that Pokemon Direct I can talk about is new Pokemon Snap, but there's not as much to really say there. It's a new Pokemon Snap game. Man, I don't know. I'm not feeling as hyped about that game as I initially was, because I don't know. I feel like they should have done a Pokemon Snap sequel a long time ago. I feel like it would have been way more exciting if they had done it sooner on systems that could have taken advantage of their camera features better. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So what are your thoughts on the upcoming Sinnoh games and remakes and stuff like that? Do you think that the main Sinnoh remakes look good visually and graphically and all that stuff? Do you think that Pokemon Legends is the true future for the Pokemon series? All that stuff. Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And again, follow my social media such as my Twitter, because it's possible that I'm going to be out of the game for a minute, and I will be posting updates there daily. This has been Nux, and I'm out. Peace.